Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today we are discussing a fabulous new musical hitting the stages soon, hopefully. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
Let's get into it. So today we are talking about Borden, a new musical, and we have Cavan here to talk to us about it, who is the fabulous writer and creator of this musical. Welcome to the podcast, Cavan.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So Lizzie Borden is infamous. How did you decide that she was going to be the topic of your musical?
I came across her case when I was 6 years old, watching a Saturday morning episode of History's Mysteries that happened beyond that morning. And the story was just so fascinating to me because even at that young age, my brain was already kind of putting together certain things that, is the reason why we still talk about this case over 130 years later. And the biggest thing that my little brain comprehended was, well, if she was acquitted and didn't do it, then why do we still point at her and, call her the person that did it? And so, that's one of the things that throughout like I said, over 130 years now, that still captivates us about this story. It was the last true American locked door mystery. And I think that that's what, has captivated people for all these years.
So do you get into a conclusion on if she did it or not in the musical?
We don't, because for me, that was a very important thing. Because we really wanted, whenever we were creating this, to add something to the canon of Lizzie Borden that keeps the story going for another 130 years. Because like you said, she's become infamous. And it's interesting because in all the research that we've done for the show, over the last 6 years in particular, it's been really interesting seeing how Lizzie, before all this even happened, she always talked about how she wanted to be known for something and she wanted to be this recognized person. And, whether or not you think she did it based on the research that I'll leave the listeners up to do on their own, it's interesting to kind of look at it in different ways and say, well, she did, but at what cost, with everything that happened with her.
That's
And
so cool. I had no idea that that was something that she had said like before this whole event happened.
Well, yeah, because we really don't know much about the Bordens except until August 4th, 1892. And then that day, we know everything about them. Well, not everything, but, the majority of everything. But all that we know, especially about the Bordens and things before August 4th, are really just from the testimonies of Emma and Lizzie, and then through the people that were friends and family that were there, giving their testimonies and things as well. But other than that, we don't really know much. What we do know is that Andrew came from a family named the Bordens, which was a very wealthy family line in Fall River, Massachusetts at the time. However, Andrew's line of the Borden family fell into some impoverished times. And so therefore, Andrew was very much a self-made man. He had a lot of different jobs throughout his life to get the financial freedom that he ended up having at his older age. He was an undertaker for some time, making coffins for people. There is, a rumor that in order to save money on wood, he would actually cut the feet and legs off of certain people in order to get them in the smaller caskets to save money. And, that's never been proven, but how these stories go, there's so much lore behind them that you can, entertain. But then he ended up being a prominent real estate salesman and banker, which is how he got a lot of his money that Lizzie and Emma were able to inherit after his death.
what I really like is that you've clearly done so much research for this show. So, of course, you need musicality to write a musical. But when you
Hmm.
take a historical figure like this, I think it's really easy to get it warped. So I appreciate how you're saying, well, we don't know the results of if she did it or not, so we can't say in the show. And, all of these backgrounds about her family, I think that's really beautiful that you're doing that. But the topic is a challenging one, or can be at
Hmm.
least, with, a murderess potentially. Do you perceive any issues with reception for the show?
I don't, because a dear mentor for us on this show is Cara Robertson. I mean, I have given her this title. I'm not sure she would give this title herself, but she, for me, is the world's leading Lizzie Borden researcher and historian because she has spent the last 3 decades studying this case and has written a New York Times bestselling novel, The Trial of Lizzie Borden, which is the first true play-by-play account of the trial that we have. And it's available for people to go purchase. I highly recommend you do and read it. That his book has been instrumental in the construction of the show. So when we were able to partner with her and have her as almost like a advisor dramaturg for it, it was kind of a full circle moment because the documentary I watched when I was little, she was in at the very beginning of her research of Lizzie Borden. So it was filmed in the 90s. That was one of the first documentaries that she did on the case, being this, new person in the field of having such knowledge on it that, being able to have her be a part of this story is kind of a full circle. But all that to say, something that Cara says, which I really agree with, is Lizzie Borden is who we need her to be when we need her to be it. Because when you look at all the different years that we have had interpretations of Lizzie, she has represented in a lot of ways societal's challenges at times. Like when we look at the Elizabeth Montgomery movie from the 70s, Lizzie was very much a reflection of the ERA movement that was happening at the time and the women's rights movement, all the different things around that was very much Lizzie then. We then jumped to the Christina Ricci TV movie and series. It was very much in that wave of new love of historical horror. And then we look at the 2018 movie with Chloe Sevigny and Kristen Stewart, and that was one of the first films to really open the idea about Lizzie being a closeted queer woman and her relationship with the maid Bridget Sullivan. And so every time you look at Lizzie, for me as well, she's kind of who we need her to be in that moment, which I think is kind of really interesting because we always talk about writing this show. It's that reminder that yes, these are people that we have kind of idolized in these true crime lore and legends, but these were real people that these things happen to. So like, every concert we do, every presentation we do, I always make sure to do it in honor of Andrew and Abby Borden because something horribly horrific happened to them that day. And at the end of the day, these are real people. And I think that we all can kind of see ourselves in them a little bit. So I think that whenever we are able to, bring this show full force to a stage somewhere, I think that it's actually going to resonate with audiences more than anything.
I love that. And I mean, I, for one, am excited for it. I think it's great. And I think what you're saying is really interesting. I've actually never heard of Lizzie as a queer icon, and I love that theory. Because we did an episode on the Borden House, and
Mhm.
we talk about the maid in the episode and how they have seemingly complicated relationships. Some people say, Lizzie asked the maid to leave, etc. But I didn't
Mhm.
know that there might have been a romantic relationship behind it. So that is very interesting.
Well, it's also we look at the life of Lizzie, excuse me, toward the end of her life. Nance O'Neill was a prominent stage actress at the time and who frequented Maplecroft, her house on the hill that Lizzie got with her acting troops and things. So, and Nance stayed for prolonged periods of time, which of course, in Gilded Age America was subject to rumor and speculation and all those things. So yeah, it's just one of those things that it adds to the lore. For our show, Lizzie is a queer woman because the research that I have done over these last 6 years, I have developed certain opinions. Granted, all this is an opinion because again, it's history. That's what we look at the research that we have, and we're able to kind of come to our own conclusions. So people could look at the same research that I've done and have a completely different opinion, and that's what makes these stories for me so interesting. But for our show, Lizzie is a closeted queer woman who's in a relationship with Bridget Sullivan. And but the lens that we do differently with our show is that we tell the story through Emma's perspective. So the entire show is structured as Emma Borden's courtroom testimony, flashing back and forth to show what happened in the house leading up to August 4th, and then the subsequent days following Lizzie's verdict of not guilty in the court. So it's been really cool to kind of also look at Emma's story because Emma's someone we actually don't know that much about. All that we do know is that after the verdict, when they went to their house on the hill and all these parties that Lizzie was throwing and throwing herself into, there was some sort of argument or something that happened where all of a sudden these two sisters, and this is what was so important to me about this story, which is why I was drawn to it as I matured. These two women who were so incredibly close. Emma was kind of a mother figure to Lizzie, but they were so close that all it took was this thing to happen, this trial, and then they moved to this house, and then something happened, we don't know what, where they never spoke to each other again, and Emma moved out. So for the next 35 years up until their death, following that argument, they never spoke to each other. And they were born 9 years apart and died 9 days apart. So there's something also poetic about that beginning and end for them as people. I know people won't be able to see this, but I'll show you. We have these like little program books that we do for when we're sending it to potential producers and stuff, but I always end with their headstones. Because for me, there's something very poetic about these two people that were so incredibly close and then grew so far apart, but at the end were brought back together. So that's, yeah, for me, that's what the core of this story is. It's about sisterhood and the relationship of those two sisters.
That's amazing. I love that it's such a new take on it because, like you said, there's been tons of media done on Lizzie and no one knows. So I love that this is a fresh take. And what's even cooler to me is that you guys are actually doing a preview at the Borden House. So how the
Yeah.
heck did you get that deal? Because that's amazing.
One of my, I have a lot of friends that always will tell me if there's one thing about me, it's when I have my eyes set on something, I'm going to do it and I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And when we, a year ago, had our first stage reading presentation here in New York City, I had this idea where I said to myself, I really want to take the show home because I think that that will be a really great launching point for us to kind of have a coming out party, if you will, for the show. And so, what better place to do it than at the actual Borden House? And so, I reached out to the owner of the house and I pitched the idea, and they were very, very excited about it. And everything from there was just kind of set in motion. There was never any pushback. It was all just, how can we help? What do we need to do? And we decided on a date being August 2nd, which is 2 days before the anniversary of the Borden murders. So we're taking it back at a important time in the house's history. But we're doing it in the courtyard next to the house outside, and it's actually the backdrop of it is the pear tree that is still there. There's still a pear tree in the courtyard from the same roots of the pear tree that was there in 1892. So there's just something about all these things kind of coming together and it being in that place where only feet away everything happened is kind of a was very important to me. So I'm glad it all worked out for the better.
Yes, and are tickets still available for that preview?
Tickets are available. We have, I believe, only 10 left. It's a very close, it's a very tight event in terms of seating because of, it being at this historic house. Houses in 1892 were not built for large events like this. So we're doing with what we have, but we're just really excited, and there will be plenty of other opportunities to see the show in concert form, and then, all things going well, fingers crossed that we'll have a show in the coming years to be able to fully show to people and keep up with.
Yeah, that's very, very exciting. So if you're listening to this episode and you want to try to make that showing, you can check. There might be tickets left, but it sounds very, when I was reading about it, even on your guys' Instagram, it sounds like a very exclusive like reveal, like you said, of the musical.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we're very early in development, and I have been told by several people here in the city that are producers or other writing creatives, there is no way, there is no correct way to write a musical and have a musical be produced. So for me, I was like, there is a business side to it, and there is the let's play in the sandbox and have fun. And I, for now, want to be in that, of course, be smart with the business side, but let's play in the sandbox and do fun things because there is no, right or wrong way. So let's go to the house and have a concert. Let's do these little things that create the community, because I think right now, especially in terms of mass commercial theater, and just the theater industry as a whole, I guess, rather, it's a really interesting time because, everyone wants to see the dollar signs. And I'm not writing this for the dollar signs. I'm writing this because this was a show, this was an idea that I had that I was like, wait, I think that this story would mean something to people. It means something to me. So I hope it means something to others. And I've been very grateful to find the team to bring on to create this with me. But yeah, it's just one of those things that for right now we're just kind of, putting it out there in different capacities because it's not done yet. We're still writing the score and things, but we have ideas of future things that we really want to do. But it's been very unique in the way that we've had a lot of noise come from, the sidelines once we kind of introduce ourselves to the world on social media with these little updates about the presentation and just the writing of it. I mean, we got, I think it was like close to 20,000 followers within 4 months. And I was like, what? So, so it feels like we're trying to, ride that momentum, but at the end of the day, also not let the show be what it's not ready to be yet, and letting people, feel like they're a part of this journey with us because musicals take up to 10 years to be produced on a Broadway stage. And so we're in year 2 going into year 3. So, we're still a baby in that way. But it's been really cool to see the excitement from it leading up.
Yeah, and you mentioned creating, a team. I'm going to call it the dream team for this
Mhm.
because you have a historian, you have yourself who is interest and is writing and creating it, and then you have John Viggiano who's doing music and lyrics. How did you approach John? Did you just go, I want to write a musical?
John, and so John, I knew John before John knew me, because of the ways of social media. I stumbled across John's TikTok page during the pandemic. He was doing a really fun TikTok series that happened to have some Broadway people coming in and doing little cameos and stuff for these little bits that he was doing. And the videos were going viral, and it was just one of those things where I was like, how cool is this person that's like just making these things? Like they're like me. I like to make things, he likes to make things. Like let's, I think that there might be something in the future for us to collaborate with. And then, the world be what it is. All of a sudden he was in a class of mine that I was taking, and I was like, okay, this is my chance. I need to go up and introduce myself. Let's do this. And I went up and I just introduced myself, and a mentor of mine who helms that class was like, you two should know each other. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And so I said to him, would you want to get coffee one day? I have an idea, and I don't know if you would be interested in it, but like I would love to do this with you. And we got coffee a couple weeks later, and I pitched him the idea, and he was like, "I've never written a full score before," and I was like, "Well, I've never written a full show before, so I think we can do this together and figure it out." And I think he was really interested in the show for the same reason that I was. It was just this story that we all think we know, but do we really know it? And we're going to contribute something that's like you said, different than what's been out there, and try to keep the story alive for another 130 years. But I've been really excited. He's written some of the most beautiful music that I never imagined I would have on a project of mine. And the fact that I get to say that he's a friend and collaborator, like I pinch myself with how lucky I am with that.
For listeners that are interested, you can preview some of the songs on the Reels on Instagram, and
Mhm.
it's beautiful. I mean, the voices and the score just breathtaking. If you had to leave us with one thought about the musical, what would you say?
Ooh, tricky. Can I think on that for a second, really quick?
Yeah, you can. And Erica, any final questions?
I just want to say I feel like this is going to be one of the most beautiful pieces of art out there. I think because when you said earlier, like, it's not about the dollar signs, I feel like we can tell, like you're so passionate about this. And I feel like the team is just going to be so passionate about it because you're passionate about it. So I just feel like great things are going to come of this because I'm so interested and I'm already like heartwarmed thinking that we're like talking about this in year 2 of your journey?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Whenever we've gone into meetings with producers, I've always said this is not about the murder. This is about two people in a family that happen to have one of the most horrible things imaginable happen to them. So I'm more interested in talking about the family behind the story and what happened to them because none of them were perfect people, and obviously none of us are. So it's there's automatically something that we can relate to watching their story. At the heart of it, their story is about ambition and love and this idea of sacrifice, and how much can we sacrifice before we have nothing left to give to the people we love. And so I've always tell people that our story is very much, if you know musicals, for people listening, it's a mix of Parade, Little Women, and a little bit of Grey Gardens thrown in there. You know, because it's about just family, and it was I never wanted it to be centered so much around the murder because that's the things we can look up and know about off the get-go. I wanted it to be about something a little bit more meaningful.
I feel like you answered my question there too. I feel like that's the thing that you would leave people with is that it's about creating this meaningful piece. And I know, Erica, I agree with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool to get to talk to the writer and creator of this. But I'm also like, oh my gosh, I wish it went a little faster because I can't wait to see it. But I'll have to just, you know, satiate myself on Instagram Reels and previews.
Well, if you happen to be in the area for Fall River on August 2nd, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to, open up some extra slots for the both of you to be there and get to see the preview because we're going to be debuting 5 songs from the show. We are bringing up our Lizzie, Emma, Andrew Borden, Abby Borden, and Bridget Sullivan, and they're all going to get to showcase their songs that we have so far in the show. And it's been really cool. I'll speak for John on this. The way he's been writing the music is so brilliant because throughout the show, and what we know, if you know the case, is that the walls in the house are so thin. So that was always a question about, well, how, if Lizzie and Bridget were in the house, could they have not heard when Abby fell or when Andrew was, being killed downstairs? So what John has done is we each have themes with each character, and then as the show goes on, those themes begin to intersect as they hear each other through the walls. So like all the music kind of begins to collide in these beautiful ways where people start to seeing other characters themes and things like that. And I mean, he's just a genius. I tell him that all the time and he tells me to shut up, but hear it here, John, on this podcast. You're a genius.
That's so exciting. Yeah. And I'm very excited about it. I think it's an amazing topic because it is the one that lives in infamy, but I really like this new take. And thank you so much for talking to us. Any final thoughts or anything? Tell people where they can find more information.
Yeah, if you all want to keep up with our journey, we are Borden Musical on all social media or bordenmusical.com. We're in the process of getting our new website together, so that'll be live for people to see and check out. And then if you happen to be listening to this and are a creative of any capacity that works on theater productions, whether you're a producer, a director, just a theater lover in general and want to connect and talk more about the show, please message. This is, been a really cool time because we've been able to kind of grow our community. Community doesn't mean, that you're funding it. Community can mean that you're a supporter that loves this idea too. And we just want to connect and talk about how much we love this case and how, what this show might mean to you in some capacity. So no matter what it is, always feel free to reach out. We're happy to connect with everybody and gush out and geek out about this case.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Off the top of my head, my uncle listens to the podcast, but he worked in theater for years, stage managing, lighting, tech, etc. He
Yeah.
used to teach at a performing arts school, so I'm sure he'd be interested. He is, it's always amazing to me when I was little and go to his productions because they're just so beautiful. And so I'm sure he'd love to chat about it.
It's
So
been
I'll
really
have to
cool.
pass
We've
along your
we've
contact.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been really cool. We've connected with a lot of people that have even said like, if you ever want to do like an immersive thing, like reach out. And I'm like, oh, an immersive because where we take place in the courthouse, we're like, oh, there's like so many possibilities on how we can stage this when the time is right, obviously later on down the road. But it's just been cool to kind of, go ahead and meet people and start these conversations now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Cavan, for coming on and talking to us about your show. We are waiting with bated breath for every next step of the way. If there's anything we can do to support you, let us know. We'll be sure to share your journey along on our page as well so people can know where to find you. But any final thoughts?
And for me, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.